Hey, Politigals, welcome back to Base Behavior, the podcast for conservative women who are smart and bold and absolutely done pretending that the world isn't on fire. This week, we are talking about a massive cleanup in the Social Security system that proves the left's favorite talking point about illegal immigrants is dead wrong. We're also talking about a Virginia high school scandal that should terrify every parent, and why the people screaming that Trump is the one ending democracy might be the ones trying to rewrite the rules of the game. Let's get into it. All right, let's kick this off with something that made me do a double take when I heard it. President Trump just announced that his administration has removed over 275,000 illegal immigrants from the Social Security system. And if that number wasn't enough to make you spit out your coffee, he also said that they scrubbed more than 12.4 million people over the age of 120 from the system. Yeah, you heard me right, 120, including 135,000 people over the age of 160. I mean, unless we've secretly discovered the fountain of youth, something tells me that these aren't real people cashing checks at their local bank. Now, here's where it gets really interesting, because for years, the left has sworn up and down that illegal immigrants don't get Social Security benefits. They have mocked anyone who even suggested it. Illegal immigrants aren't supposed to be eligible for Social Security retirement or disability benefits. But here's the thing, they've always skipped over the other half of the conversation. Because just because someone isn't supposed to be in the system doesn't mean that they aren't. What Trump just announced proves exactly what conservatives have been saying, that there are people who should not be on the rolls who are. And we're not talking about 5 or 6 clerical errors, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants. That's not a glitch, okay? That's not a breakdown in the system. And when you've got that many people improperly listed in a system that literally writes monthly checks, you're looking at 2 possibilities. Number 1, fraud. People are getting benefits they're not entitled to. Or number 2, which is bureaucratic incompetence, so massive that it's practically fraud adjacent. Either way, it is bad. Now let's zoom out for a second. For decades, Social Security has been treated like this sacred cow that you're not allowed to criticize. You bring up reform and you're accused of wanting to push grandma off of a cliff. But behind the scenes, we've known that there's waste, fraud, and abuse, because there always is in massive federal programs. The difference is that most politicians don't actually want to clean it up because it's messy, it's politically risky, and it exposes just how broken the system really is. Trump, on the other hand, sees this as a political win. He gets to say, I'm protecting Social Security for Americans, I'm cracking down on illegal immigration, and I'm cleaning up the mess that career bureaucrats left behind. From a political messaging standpoint, it is genius, but it also raises a big question. How did we get here in the first place? If illegal immigrants can't get Social Security, then why were 275,000 of them in the system? How long have they been there? And how much money have we paid out to people who were never supposed to get it in the first place? And it's not just the illegal immigrant numbers that are wild. The fact that we had over 12.4 million people over the age of 120 still listed is absurd. That's more than the entire population of Illinois. Do you know what that means? It means we've been carrying millions of dead people in our records for decades. And dead people can still be used for fraud. You can cash checks in their name, you can use their info for identity theft, you can rack up benefits under their Social Security number if no one catches it. And when the government is this sloppy with something as important as Social Security, it's not just about wasted money, it's about trust. How are we supposed to trust them with our retirement if they can't even figure out who's alive and who's not? Now, I can already hear the talking points from the left. See, this is just the system doing its job, we're catching mistakes. And sure, cleaning up the rolls is great, but catching mistakes after you've been paying out for years is not the same thing as running a tight ship from the beginning. This isn't like a "we fixed the problem" headline. This is a "we finally noticed that the house was on fire after it burned down" headline. And if we're being real, the only reason that this is even happening is because it's politically useful. Let's not pretend the Social Security Administration suddenly had a burst of efficiency out of the goodness of their heart. Trump's making this a priority because it checks 2 of his biggest obvious campaign boxes. Number one, protecting benefits for Americans and cracking down on illegal immigration. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm glad that someone is doing it, but let's be clear, this is step one in a much bigger fight. Because if there were 275,000 illegal immigrants improperly on the rolls that were caught, how many more are still in there? If there were 12.4 million people over the age of 120, how many fake identities are still floating around in the system? And why should we believe that this level of mismanagement isn't happening in every other government program? At the end of the day, this story proves two things. Number one, the left's smug illegal immigrants can't get benefits talking point has never been the whole truth. And number two, our government is so bloated and sloppy that it takes a political stunt to make them do basic maintenance on a program that millions of Americans depend on to survive. And if that doesn't make you angry, if it doesn't make you want tighter systems, better oversight, and more accountability, then you're probably one of the people still pretending that this is just a right-wing conspiracy. Let me know your thoughts on this. Do you support cleaning up Social Security rolls and other benefits to ensure that only American citizens who are supposed to be receiving them actually are? All right, I wish I was making this next story up because it is a hard one to believe, but we're talking about a public high school in Virginia, Centerville High School in Fairfax County, where multiple girls are now saying that a school social worker helped them get abortions without telling their parents. And I'm not just talking about driving them to Planned Parenthood and dropping them off. According to these girls, this employee scheduled the appointments, paid for them, and then intentionally kept their families in the dark. Let's pause right there because I'm a mom, and I can tell you right now that if a school employee ever made a major medical decision for my child behind my back, we're not just talking about having a meeting with the principal, we are having a full-blown legal situation. In one case, the girl was 17. She said in a written statement that this school worker paid for the abortion and told her not to tell her parents. Another girl says that the same staff member did the exact same thing for her. That's not a coincidence, that's a pattern. And now Virginia law is crystal clear. If you're under 18, you need parental consent for an abortion unless you go through a judicial bypass. Like, this is not a gray area. It's not, well, if the school thinks it's best. No, the law says parents have to be involved. And what makes me furious is that Fairfax County Public Schools has this official policy that says staff should encourage students to talk to their parents if they're pregnant, but it doesn't require it. It leaves the door wide open for a rogue employee to play doctor, social worker, and parent all at once. And that's exactly what happened here. And let's be honest, this isn't just about abortion, this is about parental rights, because if they can hide this from you, what else can they hide? Medical decisions, gender transitions, counseling records, where's the line? When this came out, Fairfax County Public Schools claimed that they were shocked and launched an administrative investigation. The governor, thank God, didn't just leave it there, okay? Governor Youngkin has now ordered a criminal investigation by the Virginia State Police. And I hope every single person involved in this gets hauled in for questioning, because this is not unfortunate or unacceptable. This is criminal. And for the parents out there saying, well, what if their parents wouldn't have been supportive? I don't care. That is not for a school employee to decide. You do not get to insert yourself into a family's private medical decision and cut the parents out entirely. That's not compassion, that's control. And I know some of you listening aren't parents yet, so maybe this feels distant, but let me tell you, schools have no business making life-altering medical decisions for minors without parental involvement. None. Zero. I don't care if it's an abortion, hormone therapy, surgery. If you're a minor, your parents have the right to know. I've said this before, when the left can't win in the legislature, they go through the schools. They know that they can use confidentiality and school privacy as a loophole to keep parents in the dark. They know that most parents won't find out until it's too late, and by then the damage is done. I want you to really think about this. If the accusations are true, a taxpayer-funded employee in a taxpayer-funded school used taxpayer-funded time and resources to help minors end pregnancies in secret. If that doesn't wake people up, I don't know what will. This is why parental rights laws matter. This is why we fight for transparency, because you cannot assume that just because your kid is in a good school district, nothing like this would ever happen. Fairfax County is one of the wealthiest, most high-performing districts in the country, and look at what's allegedly going on behind the scenes. So yeah, this story makes my blood boil, and I hope that this investigation investigation is thorough, public, and followed by real consequences, not just a will retrain our staff memo. People need to lose their jobs. People need to face charges. And parents need to know exactly how this was able to happen under the nose of a school board and administration. Let me know in the comments, do you think this was just one rogue employee, or do you think the culture in these schools actually encourages staff to keep parents out of the loop when it comes to sensitive issues? Because to me, this feels less like a fluke and more like a symptom of a much bigger problem. I'm starting to think that the left has a group text where they all decide on the phrase of the month, and lately it is Trump is the end of democracy. They say it like it's a prophecy, like every time he signs an executive order, we should start training for the Hunger Games or something. But here's the part that they don't want you to notice. These same people crying about saving democracy are the exact ones who've been pushing to dismantle our system from the inside out for years. Let's just look at a few headlines illustrating this point in black and white, shall we? Elizabeth Warren wants to kill the Electoral College. Democrats fight to expand a broken and illegitimate Supreme Court, adding 4 seats. Harris calls for end to Senate filibuster to restore U.S. abortion rights. And these last 2 headlines were actually from this month. First one said, abolish the Senate, end the Electoral College, and pack the court. And my personal favorite from just a few weeks ago, Carville calls on Democrats to unilaterally pack the Supreme Court and create new blue states to save democracy. You can't make this up. When Trump wins an election, danger to democracy. When the Supreme Court rules in a way that they don't like, danger to democracy. When the Electoral College doesn't work in their favor, danger to democracy. When the filibuster gets in the way, danger to democracy. Every time they lose, their solution isn't to persuade more voters, it's to change the rules so that they can't lose again. And if Trump even hinted at half of this, the media would have a 72-hour meltdown about authoritarianism. Look at the coverage of Trump's recent moves, okay? Whether it's the DC police takeover, his executive orders on higher ed, or cracking down on illegal immigration, the left frames every single one of those as power grabs or fascism. Meanwhile, they are openly writing think pieces about abolishing entire branches of our system. They've normalized the idea that if voters don't give them what they want, the system itself must be reimagined. They're not protecting democracy, they're trying to rig it. Here's the uncomfortable truth, okay? Trump isn't destroying democracy, he's actually reinforcing it. He's enforcing laws and holding corrupt institutions accountable, and making the people in charge actually answer to voters. The left calls that authoritarian because it gets in the way of their real goal, which is permanent power. The cultural dismantling is already happening, okay? Redefining words, erasing traditions, and normalizing radical ideas. But the systematic dismantling, that is the end game. Change the courts, change the voting rules, change the balance of power so that it's mathematically impossible for Republicans to ever win again. If they succeed in even part of this wish list, abolishing the Electoral College, ending the filibuster, packing the court, our checks and balances are gone. The Senate becomes meaningless, the Supreme Court becomes a revolving door of political appointees, the presidency becomes a winner-take-all popular vote free-for-all dominated by a handful of blue megacities, and yet they still stand at a podium and tell you that they are trying to save democracy. So here's something to think about. Maybe the real threat to democracy is the side that keeps trying to rewrite it. Let me know in the comments, do you think that the left's push to reform the system is about fairness, or is it about making sure that they never lose again? All right, let's move over to my favorite part of the show, and y'all already know what that is. It is the Hot Take Hotline. These are questions sent to me by listeners about things that they're dealing with in their lives, or questions about things happening in politics and across the country. I've been trying to keep a good mix of topics in this segment, but if you have a question or a submission, feel free to comment on this video or DM me. Question 1, my coworker found my Instagram and now the whole office knows I'm conservative. Do I try to explain myself or just let them think what they want? Okay, so my take is let it go. I say this as someone who posts a lot online and sometimes ends up on the wrong side of the algorithm, meaning thousands of hate comments and DMs from people who have never met me and never will. And when that happens, I totally get how easy it is to spiral and start obsessing over what other people think. But here's the truth. The trolls on social media aren't real people in your life, and your coworkers aren't sitting up at night thinking about your Instagram account. Most people don't care. They've got their own lives, their own problems, their own grocery list to worry about. And the ones who do care enough to make it their mission to demonize you, well, you're never going to make them happy. You could soften every post, add disclaimers, tiptoe around everything, and they would still find a reason to be mad because that's just who they are. So don't waste your energy trying to manage their perception. Keep doing your job well, keep being yourself, and let people's actual experience of you matter more than whatever they think they know from scrolling your feed. Okay, question 2. I'm in my 30s, I'm single, and I only want to date conservative men. Am I being too picky? Okay, I don't know your dating history, but I can tell you with absolute certainty that wanting to date a conservative man is not what's making you picky. I hear from so many women who say that they want to settle down with a conservative guy but can't find any. And yeah, maybe depending on where you live, they're a little harder to come by. But when you actually dig into it, most of the time, these women don't just want a conservative man. They want a conservative man who works out 5 to 7 days a week, is over 6 feet tall, makes six figures so that she can stay home, comes from a perfect family, has zero baggage, has perfect teeth and a great hairline, and ideally lives within 20 minutes of her. And that's before we get deep into personality and politics and hobbies and chemistry. Here's the thing, wanting a conservative man isn't the problem. Wanting a conservative man who also happens to be some sort of Hallmark movie meets Captain America fantasy, that's where women get stuck. Because if you're filtering out 99% of the men who actually share your values, not because they're bad men, but because they don't fit like a super specific aesthetic or lifestyle, you're gonna feel like there's no one out there. And look, I'm not saying you should lower your standards. You should absolutely want someone who shares your core values and faith and family and politics and your same worldview, because those are things that actually matter when you're building a life together. But when you start eliminating guys over things that are ultimately negotiable, like whether they have the perfect gym routine or an impressive job title, you might be passing on someone who could give you everything you actually want in a marriage. I hear from a lot of women who are lonely and claim that it's because they can't find a good man. But honestly, I think it's because they're holding out for a very specific version of a good man that maybe doesn't even exist. That's my take. If you have thoughts, make sure that you add them in the comments so we can talk about it. All right, I did not have Superman joins ICE on my 2025 bingo card, but here we are. Dean Cain, yeah, Superman, just announced that he is joining Immigration and Customs Enforcement as an honorary agent. The man literally went from fighting cartoon villains to helping ICE fight human trafficking and illegal immigration. I'm sure somewhere out there a liberal arts professor is choking on their oat milk latte over this. Now, Cain is already a reserve deputy sheriff, so he's not new to law enforcement. He said he felt called to step up after seeing ICE's recruitment push, which, by the way, they're going hard on right now, if you haven't noticed. They even dropped the age limit so that they could bring in more agents. And apparently, Superman still meets the fitness requirements. Predictably, the left is losing it over this. Cain's response is basically, I don't care. He says that he is proud to stand with ICE. He's not doing it for the money, and he said that if there is any money involved, he's going to donate it to charity, which is exactly why they hate it, because he's not backing down and they can't cancel someone who isn't afraid of their outrage. So yeah, Superman is now fighting crime at the border. And honestly, that might be the most American plot twist of the year. Before we wrap up, I want to take a minute to highlight our Base Babe of the Week, where we highlight a woman doing something bold, unapologetic, and worth celebrating. This week's Base Babe is NASCAR driver Natalie Decker. She is making history as the first mother ever to return to the NASCAR circuit after having a baby. And racing's not some casual hobby that you pick up after maternity leave. It is physically exhausting, mentally grueling, and requires every ounce of focus, and Natalie is doing all of that while raising a newborn. What I love most about this is the message that it sends. The left loves to tell women that motherhood holds you back, that if you want to achieve big dreams, you have to put family on the back burner or skip it entirely. And Natalie's saying, no, I can do both. And she's proving it in one of the most male-dominated sports in the world. So Natalie Decker, congratulations on making history and showing every young girl watching that motherhood isn't the end of the race. Sometimes it's just your pit stop before the next big win. Congratulations, you are our Based Babe of the Week, and you absolutely earned it. All right, that's it for this week's episode of Based Behavior. If you've made it this far, you are officially one of my favorite people on the internet. Before you go, I've got to plug our Politicals Facebook group. This is our private space for conservative women to connect and swap stories and have the kind of unfiltered conversations that you really can't have anywhere else. Whether you're looking for friendship, advice, or just a place to vent without worrying about getting getting canceled by the woke mob, Politigals is it. I will drop the link in the description so you can join us. As always, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure that you like this video, drop a comment with your thoughts on today's stories, and hit that subscribe button so you never miss a new episode. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, go ahead and follow the show and leave a 5-star review. It's the easiest way to help us reach more conservative women who are ready to start questioning those narratives that we were never supposed to touch. I'm Erica Choinka from Politics for Her, and I'll see you next week for more based behavior.